Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for joining us for another exciting edition of today's show that is sort of working, sort of not.
No, it's working. I think it just has too many gremlins in it this morning. But no, you're on there. You're fine.
The air is, we're having a hard time here. But I tell you what, if we were live on the air, this would be a train wreck this morning. But this is going to be a good show. So we are welcoming back to Tampa Home Talk Mr. Corey Richardson with Safeline Home Inspections. Welcome back to our revamped studio.
Thanks, Katrina. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. Hope you enjoy the new studio, and we have a little room for error.
I can tell you've put a lot of work into this place. It looks really nice.
We have. Thank you. So I'm going to let Corey introduce himself. You've been doing home inspections now for quite a while. So I'd love for you to tell the person listening how long, how you got started, and what fuels you still today.
I'll tell you, I definitely was thinking about being a home inspector when I was in high school and graduating.
Were you really?
No, I'm just kidding. That's definitely not
I was like, what? Was it like Great American Teaching or something?
Yeah,
what?
No. The home inspection company was not something I even thought about until after we moved down to Florida and bought a house. But originally, I went to school to be an automotive technician at a Volkswagen dealership. I did that for about 8 years. And then we moved down to Florida. That gave me a chance to rethink my life. I knew I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what it was. And so after we bought our house, we got it inspected, and then that kind of put that into my head that, yeah, I can probably do home inspections next.
And so what kind of training and certifications and stuff did you give yourself? Because it's very different, right? Automotive to home inspections.
It's actually not too much different if you think about it.
Okay.
Because automotive, you have to be very particular, make sure you put things back, take things apart, put things back together. So
that sounds way scarier than a bad home inspection.
Yeah, it's the same thing with your house. I'm looking at, different areas of people's houses, HVAC systems. There's HVAC in cars. They basically run the same, different size, some different components, but it's same concept. So there's a lot of crossover between those two industries. And my parents were also general contractors up in North Carolina as well.
So you had a little background there.
And I've worked with them. So I've constantly been in the building industry. In home inspections, I went to InterNACHI school, which is partially online, and I took a hands-on course as well to get my certification, passed the background check, and started doing home inspections.
So what made you want to do that after you bought your house? Because typically there's a story associated with that. I know there was for me. Like I ended up getting my real estate license after I bought the house I was in for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So did your home inspector miss something major, or was it just you were intrigued by the profession? Like what prompted that?
I was ready to do something different from being an automotive technician, and I saw a lot of potential there. I saw the price that I paid my inspector, and I was like, hey, this is about how much I make working on cars. So I was like, I could probably definitely do that. So I was intrigued to learn more, and InterNACHI, the association that I'm a part of, does a great job posting online stuff, and if you want to be a home inspector, they have lots of information, blogs, videos you can watch. They basically tell you how to start the business from the ground up.
Wow. So I want to just add a little something onto what you said, because I don't want anyone listening to this maybe that has not bought a home before, or, they bought a home before and they use an inspector and they thought, oh, that guy wasn't worth the money, right? I think with home inspectors, it's the same principle, the 80-20 principle, right? You have 20% of any industry that are absolute rock stars, and the other 80% are mediocre at best, right?
Yeah.
And so but the thing about it is like, and definitely when we recommend a home inspector, it's only people that we trust that we would hire personally to come do an inspection. I would never, ever recommend anyone else. And you guys' days can get full and that kind of stuff, but it's worth the price of admission. So what you pay an inspector, I tell my buyers, that's an insurance policy to make sure you know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a very small window of time for your due diligence to basically cancel based on the inspections. And we're still under the as-is contracts. I'm not even going to get into the non-as-is, which we have not yet seen resurface, but I think at some point we will, which means buyers can't get out of the contract as easily. They have repair limits and stuff, but they're still bound to buy that house. So with that being said, I think your inspector, it's really important, because you don't want, especially big surprises later that an inspector should have caught. And there's places that the inspector is going where we're not allowed to go. Me as the agent, the buyer's not allowed to get in the roof or get in the attic or any of that kind of stuff.
I would love to see you walking on a roof.
Nope, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. I would be a terrible home inspector from my
Yeah.
fear of heights.
I think you also get what you pay for. When I started my business, I was new. So I've been doing home inspections for 10 years now, which doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it's gone by. And my business strategy has changed a lot. So
How so?
probably when I was newer starting out, it was more about a volume thing. So I was trying to do 10, 15 inspections a week. And you charge less to get more work. That's typically how most home inspection companies work. And then once you get more established, you realize, like, one, if I do 10, 15 inspections a week, I got to write the reports on those. And like, those are long nights.
Yeah.
And you can't do it. It's unsustainable in the long run. And so my business strategy now is more quantity, or quality over quantity. So most days I'm only doing one inspection a day. Sometimes, if I have an agent that really needs me to do an inspection, I might do a second one. But my theology now is I want to give that inspection as much time as it takes to get through the house. So sometimes, on average, it's probably about 3 hours. But hey, if the house requires me to be there for 4 or 6 hours to do the inspection the right way, that's when I'm going to do it. And I can do that because I only have one inspection that day, 2 inspections that day. If you're talking with an inspector that's got 2 other houses to get through, he's got a time frame.
Right.
He can only be there for 2, maybe 2.5 hours before he's got to get on the road to get to the next job. And that's going to limit the quality home inspection that you're going to receive.
That's well said. And I think back to your point was something you mentioned earlier, you get what you pay for. So when you're newer, you obviously discount your prices so that you can get business. And then with time, you have somebody like me, right? I'm a seasoned pro. I've sold real estate for a very long time. I've sold thousands of homes. When I go in and people say, oh, will you cut your commission, or will you reduce what you charge? My answer is always no. What's your next question? And the reason why is you're paying for all of the experience that I have.
Correct.
The thousands of inspections that I've been to, the thousands of properties that I've sold. You can't put a price on that kind of knowledge, because in the long run, it keeps you out of litigation, and it keeps your process smooth and clean, and a lot less hiccups and challenges when you have somebody like me involved.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What does the typical day look like for a home inspector? I know you said, some of these big volume companies might be, 2, 3, 4 inspections a day. And then, talk about the work behind that when you got to go back and write the report, and maybe how software maybe has changed that. I'd love for you to chat on that.
There's been a lot of changes in the industry, and every home inspection company is going to be set up a little bit differently. But for me, I'm a family first, so I pretty much drop my kids off at school every day, Monday through Friday. And then I don't start inspections until like 9 o'clock, and so or at 9:30. So I'll be driving to my first inspection at 9 o'clock, starting around 9:30 or so. That inspection takes usually around 3 hours or so, and then after that, I usually take time off, pick the kids up, whatever normal life stuff, and then after the kids go back to bed, I'll write the reports, and I usually deliver them the next day.
Where do you like to start your inspections at?
Oh, like around the house. So typically I start on the outside. look at the siding. I'll look at the stucco. I'll look at the soffit, and then usually jump on the roof. Check the shingles. Check the chimney if they've got one.
A lot of times these guys get there earlier, so they get there sometimes even ahead of the agent or whoever's letting them in. So it makes sense to start on the outside. Sometimes weather changes how you have to do stuff too.
Yeah. When it gets really hot in the summertime, I'll probably do more jumping in and out because you get really hot and then you got to cool off, and then you got to do the attic inspection, which are a lot of fun. Attic inspections, the average temperature is probably 140 degrees in the attic.
That's what I was gonna say. 140 was in my mind.
And if it's really cooking, I've seen it up to 160.
Ooh.
So for any potential home inspectors out there, if they're not bringing an X-Acto knife in the attic with them, so like, hey, especially if it's a big house and you got to crawl to the other side, make sure you turn the air conditioning on first. That way, if things ever potentially happen, you can make a small cut in the ductwork so you can cool off, and then you can tape it back up, if that's the case. That's way better than you passing out in the attic. And
they're like, where's Corey?
Where's
He's been
Corey?
gone for a while.
And also let people know if there's an agent there or the buyer there, hey, I'm going to do the attic inspection. It should take about 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
That way, if they haven't heard from you in a while, they can like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's scary. Have you known anyone that's ever passed out in the attic because of the heat?
I've heard stories. I don't know anybody personally.
Yeah, that's really scary. When you think about 140 degrees, that's very hot.
Yeah.
When you get in the attic, how many attics do you find that are under insulated?
A lot.
All of them, I would say most of them, right?
Especially like the older houses. This is what will happen is the insulation might be well when they first did it, and then insulation compresses over time, and you have to like put new insulation up there. So most older houses are under insulated. Easy way of telling, if you go up in your attic and you can see the trusses on the bottom, then that means that you probably need additional insulation.
Oh, you can see all of my trusses.
And the drywall.
Yeah.
How that's a homeowner maintenance item. How often would you say you have to reapply insulation?
Insulation, I would say once every 10 years or so. Yeah.
How often have you done that, Pat? Never.
I've been in the house 25 years. Never.
Well, yeah. Well, definitely is probably time.
Have you ever put your foot through a ceiling?
Yes.
Oh,
I think everyone has done that. Like homeowners have done that.
So when you're in the attic, you have basically it was like a tricky board. Like it looks like it's there, so you step on it, and then it just it wasn't attached to anything, so your foot kind of goes through. I mean, these things happen.
Yeah.
I got a good handyman that I can call out there, does drywall repair, makes it look like nothing even happened. So.
I know you said that the industry's changed quite a bit in the last decade. What are some of the examples of the changes that you're talking about?
So when I got started, it was phasing out like actual written reports, right? But that was still a thing, right? If you're talking to an inspector now that still has physically written reports, they are way behind the times. Nowadays, most inspectors use software. I use Spector, but there's Home Gauge, Home Inspector Pro. There are digital reports, which really helps the inspection process because we can basically finish the report by the time we get done, which makes writing the report in the afternoon a lot better. So on deals that, hey, we need it today, I can actually finish the report like at the end of the inspection.
What is AI playing a part in any of your software? Like, is AI saying, "Hey, did you miss this?" Or I'm just curious because AI has a little hand in everything.
So what I use AI for, and it's come a long way too, is now I can take a picture of a defect, right? And I can submit that picture to ChatGPT or something like that with a comments like, "Hey, I found like this defect. Let's say moisture stain under kitchen sink." Whatever, and it'll throw in all of the other verbiage that's needed, and then I can be like, okay, that's a little bit too jargony. Can you soften it down a little bit? And it'll just rewrite the whole statement, which saves me a lot of time.
It can probably help you identify possible issues too, like if you're not sure what the root cause is.
Yeah, that's definitely, it can definitely brainstorm with that. I'm waiting for the time where AI is eventually going to take away my job completely.
People say that, but honestly, I don't know that it will because you still have to have boots on the ground. A lot of people are threatened saying, "Oh, it's going to take away agents." It's too big of a purchase to risk, not, it may change some things and change the structure, maybe the way people are paid, but it's not going to eliminate it. I just don't think it will.
We're way off. Well, I definitely agree with that. But I think there could be a time where, it's like Star Wars and they have those scanners, where it's like you could just walk in, scan the whole house, and it basically tells you all the defects are. And that actually wouldn't be a bad thing.
What about a drone in the attic?
So the drones in the attic are tough because there's so many different obstacles that they have to get around. Now, there are crawl space robots. I don't have one because they're about $3,000 or $4,000.
Oof.
And we don't do enough crawl space inspections to really justify it. But I have done, those bungalows in like South Tampa or Ybor that have the really, really small closed-in attics that you can't get to. That would be great because it's it's like a little tank with a camera and a light on it, and you can, because it's on the ground, you can go in.
How many times have you gotten an attic and went, oh my gosh, this wiring, somebody has messed with this?
Yeah. So those are usually for older houses. Not as common as it has been in the past. Most of those knob and tube houses have been already retrofitted with regular wiring. So it's very, very rare these days, but it's possible 80 years old, 90 years old, 100-year-old houses.
What about aluminum wiring?
That's still a thing, yeah. Usually you'll find that, but not something you'll see in the attic. Usually that's something you'll identify first at the electrical panel. You'll see the aluminum wiring there.
I tell you, we had a cable guy one time that ran a cable wire through a Christmas ornament, and we had to cut the ornament to get it out. And we didn't realize. So, yeah, it was like a wire angel that sat out front with like a candle, and we had to cut the ornament to get it free.
Yeah.
I was so mad. My husband was like cursing. He was like, I can't believe this. So when you think about some of the well, first of all, is there any like myths or misconceptions that the general public has around home inspections that we should clear up?
All right, so a home inspection is not a warranty, so it doesn't guarantee that there's not going to be ever any problems with your house. There are some companies that do offer warranties with their inspection. Usually they're limited, like 90 days, 120 days. After closing, they'll warranty some of the stuff. But a home inspection really is just a snapshot in time of the house as it is. And that's the only thing we're inspecting. So if your air conditioning unit is 15 years old, a good home inspector would be like, hey, we tested it. It seems to be working fine now. We still would recommend, having someone look at it, prepare for replacement, because the typical lifespan on an air conditioning unit is going to be 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and their houses, they need regular maintenance. Things change all the time.
Yep.
And you guys can't see behind doors, or you can't see behind walls, and that sort of stuff.
We do have thermal cameras, and they don't work like they see on TV. You can't see through the walls. It's just measuring surface temperature. We can see certain things like, hey, there's a hot spot, there's a cold spot. That might mean that there's a water leak, or that might mean that, hey, this wall is not properly insulated, but we can't really see through it.
Have you ever had where you get something like that, but it's nothing there, like a ghost sort of related thing, or no? I know it's a funny off question, but...
So most of the time, and you have to be careful about these things. That's when it looks like there's no insulation, and then you open up the wall and the insulation is there. And that's because there's probably an air gap between the wall and the insulation, so it's not touching, and there's air that's leaking in that's causing that pocket. So that happens pretty regularly. So
how do you verify that when you're not allowed to really do damage to the home?
It's tough, but you kind of just have to use your guts, your knowledge, and like kind of look at it like, okay, this is what's going on. Usually it's pretty obvious when there's no insulation. It's like bright red, but when you might see a little patch, it's like, okay, this is probably just like an air pocket somewhere.
When you do home inspections, there's always like very common things that come up all the time. And, sometimes if it's a first time home buyer, they might get a little freaked out by some of the things. And some of those things are so easy. They're really simple fix with a handyman.
What are they?
Well, I was going to have Corey tell you. Like, what if you would list off the top 5 or 10 things that you see on almost every home inspection, for a house that's been around for a while and you're doing this home inspection?
Yeah. I would start with like electrical problems. So GFCI outlets that don't work. Those of you that don't know what a GFCI outlet is, those are the outlets with the buttons on them, usually found in your bathrooms and your kitchens. Okay. So you're supposed to test those pretty regularly, at least once a month.
Yeah,
And
nobody does that.
yeah, if they don't trip when you push the button, it means they're faulty. They need to be replaced. So we run into those all the time.
And they go out all the time.
They go out
And
all the time.
what's the shelf life on those GFCIs? And talk about what they're for, like why they are even in those wet areas.
I would say the shelf life is probably about 5 or 10 years.
Okay.
They should last a fairly while. But even on the packaging, it says test. Some of them might say test weekly,
Oh, yeah,
which
that's
is like no
extreme.
one's going to do that. And the same thing, you have those same GFCI outlets that are in the main panel as well. Those are supposed to be tested monthly too. But I don't know anyone who actually opens up their main circuit box and tests those.
No. We should do an annual homeowner maintenance checklist with some of those items that you'd like check at least once a year.
Yep. Another common thing we find is leaks underneath sinks. Because no one looks under their sink, but usually it's a small drip, and then what those end up snowballing, and next thing you know, your whole cabinetry is all water
Warped.
damaged and warped. And
Is that from like a gasket that goes bad, or what kind of leaks? Is it around the garbage disposal? What sort of things?
Usually there's little plastic seals that I guess maybe they just get loose over time. When you're running hot and cold water, pipes are expanding and contracting. Eventually causes enough of a gap so the water will start dripping.
Right.
And water is very corrosive to the house.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's a big one too. That one probably people don't think about very often.
Yep.
So little leaks under the sink, and what else? What other things do you see?
Air conditioning wise, I would say goes to your condensate drain line. Either the float switch is not installed, and so there's water damage around the air conditioning unit, or let's see, the float switch could be installed and it's like, overflowing. Or if someone calls in and like, my air conditioning has stopped working, a lot of times the drain line to the air conditioning unit is clogged from algae gulk, and that's what caused that float switch to trip, which caused the air conditioning to shut off.
So that's another maintenance items that so many people don't do. Putting that little, half a cup full of vinegar or bleach, or rotating, to keep that cleaned out from algae and stuff. It's a big deal, and it can cost you an unnecessary trip from your HVAC
How often
guy.
do you still find the AC unit, the air handler, in the attic? Because I move mine.
So
Depends on the house design,
older
too.
houses, yeah, like let's say 15, 20 years old, that's still very common. Most newer houses don't put it there because they know it's not
hard to get to.
It's not an ideal place to put an air handler. One, it's hard to maintenance, and two, you're putting something that's cold in an environment that's really hot.
Right.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not very efficient. Speaking of air
Somebody
conditionings,
thought that was a good idea and later said no.
yeah. Speaking of air conditionings, one really big problem that I've found, especially if the air conditioning unit is in the attic or in the garage, is that if you pull the panel off, a lot of times it is covered with contamination, which could be identified as mold if you do a mold test. But that is usually a very common issue that I find, because no one ever pulls the cover off of those air conditioning
It's so
units.
funny because I never have, and I'm afraid to for that reason.
Yeah, yeah. It's very common.
And that's from the hot and cold mix. I mean, that's normal.
Well, your air conditioning unit is pulling moisture out of your house, and it's cold, so there's going to be a lot of wet moisture in that area. And then you're in an environment, especially when it's in the garage, there's also a lot of moisture.
This guy's
in the
making me go
garage.
home to do this today.
How do you keep that from happening?
So
What's the maintenance on that?
UV bulbs go a long way. So if you have, that's why they a lot of HVAC guys start recommending, hey, put some UV bulbs around your air handler, because that ultraviolet light will prevent mold from growing in and around your coils. So that will prevent that from happening.
Probably a good use of money at the time you're getting your HVAC redone.
Yeah.
What else? What other things you see?
Let's see. Roof leaks all the time. Damaged shingles. That's very common. If the roof is around 15 or 20 years old, there's usually some sort of damage.
Yeah, you're not getting any insurance.
Chimney flashing problems all the time. Valley problem flashings all the time.
Is that because they're just installing it wrong?
No, it's just normal wear. So flashing, especially around your chimneys, they usually have like silicone caulking over the top. That caulking needs to be redone every 5 years or so, or else you start getting leaks, and then those leaks turn into bigger problems.
Definitely. A big one that you didn't mention yet, we see all the time, is there's so many houses without gutters in Florida, and that little concrete slab on the side of the house where it splashes either against the side door or the garage door, those rot very often.
Yes.
And that gets flagged on the termite inspection. That's on probably 8 out of 10 houses. Would you say some kind of damage at the bottom?
Yeah, they don't have sufficient overhang, so the water just splashes back onto the door.
And it's a simple fix, but it's something that will trip you up. You got to get it fixed. What else do you see?
Let's see. Plumbing we've talked about.
I have one this morning because when I was, you probably have it too, but I'm going to add to it because I looked at this house this morning, and obviously being at so many inspections as a listing agent, I noticed stuff like that. I'm like, the inspector's going to flag this, but there was a really pretty like bamboo palm in the front, but it was like all crowded against the corner, touching the roof line. They're getting ready to redo the roof anyway. And I told them, you really need to pull this away from the house, you know, and you can explain why you don't want to have any foliage touching your house or that close to it.
Insects, for the most part.
Yeah.
It basically creates a pathway
for bridge for
bugs to basically get into your house. Yeah. So the other thing.
What's the rule of thumb? About a foot?
I would say you want at least a foot of clearance, but honestly, any big trees or stuff like that should be about 6 feet away from your house.
Okay.
Because the root system can also potentially cause foundation issues as well.
Foundation, plumbing.
So another common thing I find is for water heaters, especially like if the water heater has been replaced, so newer water heaters. A lot of plumbers don't reconnect the temperature pressure relief valve extension pipe, right? So just a simple 3/4 inch pipe that connects to that valve, which is a safety valve. It prevents scalding in the event that the pressure in the tank builds too high. It releases hot steam. If anyone's around, they're going to get burned. So there's a pipe that's supposed to connect to it that vents 4 to 6 inches off the ground or outside.
It also keeps your hot water heater from shooting through the roof.
Yeah. So a lot of times that won't be reconnected.
If it's not connected properly, it can be like a rocket, right? Hot water
yeah.
heater.
So there was a Mythbusters episode that did that. They bypassed all the pressure relief valves, and it shot through a 2-story building, went about 300 feet up in the air. Yeah,
That's a common thing that gets flagged on 4 points all the time. How plumbers don't fix that and put that back right, I don't know. Maybe someone else is doing it. It's not a plumber.
It's possible. A lot of times, you're supposed to pull permits for that sort of thing, but I don't know anybody who pulls a permit for replacing a water heater. Now,
are you looking for permits also when you're doing stuff? Are you doing a permit check?
I do a build facts report, which is a software that I use that does it pulls permits on the houses. But it's not necessarily like a thing that you're supposed to do as a home inspector. I just kind of have that as an added service because I write the reports. And it makes it easy if I can see, there's a roof permit, so I can write it on my 4-point, and electrical was done at this time. So that's why I do it. Yeah.
Used to be able to get away with a lot of that stuff, but now if there's no permit, it's the same as not being done. People have tried to replace the roofs and stuff without a permit. It doesn't work.
Or if the permit has been expired and not completed.
Closed. That's
closed. Another big deal.
Yeah. What else do you see that trips home buyers up on their 4-point, especially because that's a big deal? Like even they say, okay, I'll take the house as is. Your 4-point's got to be clear.
So now some insurances have been requiring water heaters to be replaced. If they're 15 years old, which is, to me, that seems a little bit premature. Like, I would recommend you don't need to replace it until it's leaking or there's a problem.
Yeah,
but
they're doing the same thing with the roofs, unfortunately.
They're saying, hey, 15 years old.
I'm going to wait till my valve explodes.
Get a plumber, Pat. Get a plumber. Yeah, definitely the insurance companies are being a little overzealous and premature on a lot of these things they're requiring to have done. I think they should just do exclusions if they don't like it and give the homeowner the opportunity to sign off on it. That way they can say, okay, if your hot water heater breaks and you don't take care of it and it floods your home or whatever, we're not paying a claim on it. But at least give people the option because they could get another 5 or 10. Sometimes those hot water heaters are old.
Yeah.
We've seen some that are 30 years old still kicking and not a problem with it at all.
Yeah.
But the insurance companies want it changed.
Maintenance is key, right? If you do a good job, and most people don't ever do this, is you flush out your hot water heater. You're supposed to do it once a year because all that sediment and stuff builds and sits at the bottom of the tank, and that's basically what corrodes your water heater tank from the inside out. But if you flushed it out every year, it would probably last, and it could last forever.
That's another thing people definitely don't do.
Yep.
I know I don't do it. Like we just don't. I mean,
Who thinks about it?
We should do one of those annual homeowner maintenance things with a little video tutorial on how to do the different things, because that, it can be a little scary.
Yeah.
Especially for a first-time home buyer. They're educated in their field, whatever they do for work, but not necessarily in the homeowner maintenance space.
Yep.
Definitely. There's a whole job for that, like an annual homeowner maintenance checklist and repairs, just to, that'd be a good company to create, because the better you take care of your home, the longer it lasts you, the less your big repairs are.
Yeah. Most, I do offer 11-month warranty inspections. This is catered towards like newer homes. You've just had a new house built. Usually they have the 1-year warranty. So before your 1-year warranty runs out, you have a home inspector that looks over the whole house and will give you basically a report that shows you all the defects that we found. That way that you can turn it into the builder so they can get it fixed before your warranty runs out.
Yeah, that's a good use of money. Also, new construction, don't skip the inspection.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you can get it pre-drywall, definitely get an inspection. If you can get it pre-slab, even better. Do 3 different inspections. But if you can't, at least get a home inspection before you close.
Yeah, absolutely.
On new construction, we're just seeing, I feel like more defects now than ever before. And they say they do inspections, but crazy stuff like broken trusses and just
I was just going to
nonsense.
ask you about new construction.
Oh, yeah. I used to tell people, you really don't need it, but we're always supposed to tell you to recommend it. I just think the quality of construction has gone down so much that we don't recommend anyone ever buy a house without an inspection, even a brand new one.
I would agree with that, yeah.
What kind of defects are you seeing on brand new homes that people would be shocked?
So when you're doing a brand new construction, let's say pre-drywall, the things that I'll look for is making sure there's proper load bracing on the walls. I don't want to get into too much jargon for you, but basically when you're building a structure, you have to have proper supports in certain areas. And that means that certain beams have to be nailed together, certain straps have to be in place with the proper nails. Those are the things that we kind of look for.
Certain straps, which is
yeah.
all in the plans that they're supposed to be following.
Correct.
But you can't see that stuff once the walls are up.
Once the walls go up, you can't see it. And so, hey, if we can, I'm not saying that the builders are doing this on purpose.
I'm just saying
right?
it happens. They can't micromanage every single house that's being built, because that's what's happening.
Correct.
You have one construction superintendent. You have crews in multiple properties. They're visiting them as much as they can, but there's stuff they can't see, and those guys want to get in and get out.
Yep. So, that's a very common thing. Straps missing, anchor bolts missing, they call them stud columns that are supposed to be nailed together that are not, which causes, the support not to be as strong. So those are very common things we find on pre-drywall inspections.
Anything else, like any other big things that you see?
If we get copies of the plans, which is a big thing, because not all builders will actually give the inspectors or third-party inspectors an actual copy of the plans. And
they rarely leave them in the property anymore, but they used to.
Yeah. We can check for more stuff. For like making sure we have the proper windows installed on the actual plans for. Same thing with the doors. A lot of times during a build, you might have additional outlets or plugs that you paid for to get installed. We can make sure that those are there. Like if you're making a movie room and they're supposed to go ahead and pre-wire your speaker setup, that should be there on the pre-drywall, so we can check those added details if we know about them ahead of time.
We had a client that bought from a big box builder, and they actually did this with all of them. And in the plans, they were supposed to have the architectural shingles, the ones that overlay, and they end up putting the flat 3-dimensional, is that right, shingles?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it like a whole neighborhood, and it just got signed off on by the county. Nobody questioned it.
Yep.
Which is crazy to me. That kind of stuff happens, but that's some good details that you can probably catch.
Yeah.
If you have the plans.
And then same thing with the roof inspection. I've had one where they nailed the roof and it looks good from the street, but when you get up there on the roof and you pull back the shingles, the nail spacings were incorrect. So basically, they put 3 less nails in each shingle, which over the long run probably saved them thousands of dollars. But what that means for as a homeowner is that your shingles are probably going to be more likely to blow off because they're not properly attached. So they had to go through and redo that. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it would make your head spin. Like if you ever did a custom build and you had someone like checking all the work all the time before you pay the subs, you'd be a nightmare client, but everything would be built properly up to standard.
There are 2 types of superintendents. Ones that like having third party look at it to make sure that, hey, the house is being built like it should, and then you have the ones that don't like us going behind them because
which is most of the big box builders.
They want to fight with us. They want, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, we notice the fight too, because they know that you're gonna find stuff. They don't like it. It's more work. It can slow things down. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, they've made it really difficult. They want to know when you're coming. Before you could just go, but now it's got to be scheduled. They want your license. They want your insurance. They want all your stuff in advance, and they want to approve it before they'll even let you on the property.
Yeah, which I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I'm just saying it's changed a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it has.
And a lot of that's kind of just that detour measure, I think, where they're hoping buyers will.
They make it hard. They make it more difficult. Yeah. Yep.
So if you were to give a tip for, a buyer or an agent, maybe they've never bought a home before, or it's a brand new agent. We have a lot of agents that listen to our podcast and to our show. What tips would you give them around home inspections?
Well, definitely get a home inspection. Definitely get a home inspector that you can trust. So I usually recommend asking a few questions, basic questions, when you're hiring your home inspector. Hey, is it okay if I attend the home inspection too? If the home inspector is like, no, you can't be there, I don't want you to be there, that could be a red flag for you.
That's
right?
a red flag. Yeah. Yes.
So they should.
Now leave them alone. Let them do their job. Don't follow them around.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, but I look at it this way. It's like, you guys are paying me to do an inspection. Yeah. My job is to inform you or whatever. So if you want to follow me around during my inspection, that's fine. Like we've talked about,
I know a lot of inspectors.
It's going to take it's going to make the process take longer, but ultimately that's not my concern.
As an agent, I tell the buyers to leave you alone. Let you do your inspection. Come at the tail end of the inspection. It's better if you do that, because then you've had a chance to do the whole house and you can go through all the defects and take that extra time at the end to explain things. It's just a more streamlined process.
That's how most agents do it as well. And I would agree with that. It definitely works. But for those that like to follow around, most inspectors don't like to be followed.
Yeah.
So there's a small few that can deal with it.
But you also might be distracting them from doing what they should be doing, so consider that as well.
That's true. That's very true, too.
If they're talking to you and you're asking them all these questions, they can't really focus on what they're trying to look at. So that would be another little PSA around that.
So that's one tip number one. Two, make sure your inspector has his license. Make sure that they have some sort of home inspection affiliation, whether that's ASHI, InterNACHI, FABI. Those are the three that I would recommend here in Florida.
Insurance
is important. Let's see. How long have they been doing inspections is important too, because
the cheapest is probably not the best.
Correct. If you've been doing inspections for 10 years, not against guys that have been doing it less, because we all started somewhere.
Correct.
But
hopefully you're working on a team with someone with a lot of experience.
Yeah,
it fast tracks your learning.
Yeah, knowledge does matter. Like, you experience from doing inspections. You've learned a lot from your experience doing inspections, and that will definitely help be a good inspector.
Before we get out of here, tell us who you are again, the name of your company, or where someone can find you.
I'm Corey with Safeline Home Inspections. My number is 813-777-8851. You can also go to my website, www.safelineinspections.com, to schedule an inspection online.
Yep, or reach out to us. We're happy to get you guys connected as well. If you've been in your house for a while and you've not had an inspection, highly recommend it. If you've been in your house 10, 20 years and you're not checking all these regular homeowner maintenance items we talked about, pay for an inspection. It'll give you sort of a checklist to work through, and you can budget to have those items repaired. Mm-hmm. It'll save you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah.
Like you said, the leak under the sink, that's a good example.
Happens all the time.
Might be a simple little gasket if you catch it early, but if you don't, it's a bigger problem.
Yep.
What if you see a depression in a yard, a front yard or a backyard? Do you look for anything like that? Especially in Land O'Lakes.
So if you're on a septic, right? I've run into crushed septics all the time. That happens usually it happens when people drive over their septic tank and they don't know that it's there, and that'll cause an issue. Same thing, it could crush
their drain field.
A drain pipe underneath that's running through the yard. That can be an issue as well. Or it could be something simple like they have dogs that like to dig holes in the yard.
Yeah. And the inspector scope is limited as well. So there will be times when the inspector looks at stuff and they say, Yeah, this cracking's a little bit extensive. You should have an engineer look at it,
Yeah.
right? Like if it's concerning, you're going to call in for a professional. Or if there's things on the roof that you're like, this doesn't quite look right, have this evaluated by someone for that trade, a roofer, plumber, whatever it is.
Yep. That's a good point.
And so that's important. And I tell people all the time, it's a general home inspection. It's a general overview. And if there's anything else important, you have to get your additional or supplemental inspections within that same inspection timeline, which is why it's important to have you out as quickly as possible. So that if you find anything, they have a chance to have those other trades in to look at it.
Correct. Yep.
Well, Corey, it has been quite a pleasure having you back on Tampa Home Talk.
Wait.
What? You got more?
I want to ask him this one.
You
I
got
want to end
more.
it on a fun note.
Okay.
You jumped in there. I thought for sure like I was over time and just talking too much.
No. Well, we're close.
A
But
little bit.
I want to know if you've been bitten or found nests in the attic. I didn't want to just jump back in the attic earlier until now. So
Yes. So wasp nests are very common in the attic. And
Bees? Have you seen beehives?
Not so many beehives. Wasp nests all the time, and it's difficult because usually I have my headlamp on, right? Because it's dark, and obviously the bugs are attracted to that light. So when you have that on, you're coming close, they're swarming around you, and you can't turn it off because then you can't see. So yeah, that has happened before. It's not fun.
what about a possum, a squirrel? They like to run up the air conditioning, that metal framing that goes over the air conditioning tubing.
Yeah.
They like to run right up that because they can run up that pipe in there
Yeah.
and go inside your house.
I've seen rats in the attic, but most of the time they're trying to get away from you. They're not coming towards you.
Yeah. Well, they do look for droppings and things like that, and it is stuff they will call out on the inspection report. And if that metal coating you're talking about is not sealed where a rodent cannot get up in there, they're going to call it out on the home inspection.
Yep.
And that could be as simple as sealing it with the foam, right? So it doesn't get in there.
Yep.
And then if they can't readily find where the rodent is coming in, because they, again, remember
Coming in by that tree that you want them to cut.
Yes,
Yep.
or pull away from the foundation. That's a bridge for including rodents.
Yep.
And they will definitely get in there. And so you need to deter that and make sure it's not happening, because now you got to get another person to find out where they're coming in and seal the whole thing up if it's too much for the home inspector to, gauge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's simple and you can tell right away.
It doesn't take a quarter. So if something is about the size of a quarter, that means a rat, a mouse can get in there. So the hole doesn't have to be very big.
And then you have to call somebody out like Chris Wirt with AAAC Wildlife Rescue. He's had some crazy stories.
I'm sure he has.
Yeah, he was really fun to have on the air. We'll have to have him back because it's been a while. I don't think he's seen the new studio either.
Oh.
So, but Corey, it's been so great to have you here on Tampa Home Talk. I hope you had fun with me, and super informative as always.
I'd had a blast. Thanks for having me.
And we'll have to share some stories, some real life stories from the next time you're out and about doing inspections and you come in.
Hope you have me back on again.
I would love that. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, hanging out with Corey Richardson with Safeline Home Inspections, and he's been around for a while. Great home inspector. Have used him personally. Would definitely use him personally. And if you want to connect with ourselves or any guest, 813-377-2775. If you've been in your house forever and you want to get one of those maintenance inspections, give us a call, 813-377-2775. You can call or text that off-air number. And again, this is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Love where you live, or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.
There we go.
Did you grab any photos here before we wrap up?